But there was a really, really dark and difficult part of my childhood as well. And I think I may be one of the first recognizable people to publicly talk about this. I would get so upset.
Melissa Gilbert's journey into acting did not begin with bright lights and red carpets, but with quiet determination and early exposure to a demanding industry. Like many child actors of her time, she entered show business through television commercials, learning at a very young age how competitive and disciplined the entertainment world could be. One of her earliest appearances was in a commercial for Alpo dog food, where she shared the screen with well-known actor Lorne Greene. Even though these roles were small, they were important. They taught Melissa how to take direction, repeat scenes over and over, and perform under pressure, skills that most children her age never had to learn. These early experiences slowly prepared her for the opportunity that would change her life forever. That moment came when NBC began casting for a new television series called Little House on the Prairie. The role of Laura Ingalls was highly sought after, with more than 500 young girls auditioning for the part. The competition was intense, and rejection was common. Melissa, however, stood out. There was something natural about her presence, her warmth, emotional honesty, and ability to make viewers feel connected to her character. When she finally learned she had been cast, it felt almost unreal. She heard the news through Leslie Landon, the daughter of Michael Landon, who attended the same school. This casting decision would place Melissa at the center of one of television's most beloved family shows. Filming began in 1973, and when the series aired from 1974 to 1983, it quickly became a cultural landmark. Families across America gathered around their televisions each week to watch the Ingalls family navigate life, love, hardship, and hope. Melissa's portrayal of Laura resonated deeply with viewers of all ages. She was not just acting, she was growing up on screen. The audience watched her mature from a curious, spirited child into a thoughtful young woman, and many felt as if they were growing up alongside her. Behind the scenes, however, the reality was far more complicated. Fame came quickly, and with it came pressure, expectations, and constant scrutiny. While viewers saw a wholesome, loving family on screen, the young actors were navigating long work hours, public attention, and emotional stress. Melissa was not alone in this experience. Other child actors on the show, including Melissa Sue Anderson, who played Mary Ingalls, were also growing up under the same intense conditions. At first, the bond between them was strong. They shared a unique experience that few people could understand. Fame at a young age, responsibility beyond their years, and the challenge of balancing childhood with professional life. But over time, this closeness became strained. Competition, comparison, and the pressure to perform created tension. Melissa later reflected that while the audience saw perfect family harmony, the truth behind the scenes was much more complex. The constant attention and expectations made it difficult to maintain simple friendships. Every success was measured. Every mistake noticed. As the show continued, Melissa became the face of Little House on the Prairie, a role that brought her both love and limitation. While it gave her recognition and success, it also made it difficult for people to see her as anything other than Laura Ingalls. Still, she worked hard, stayed professional, and carried the responsibility with maturity beyond her years. Even as a child, Melissa understood that her role mattered to millions of viewers. Yet deep inside, the emotional weight of fame and the strain of complicated relationships quietly began to shape her future. These early years laid the foundation for both her success and her struggles, setting the stage for the emotional journey that would follow her long after Little House on the Prairie came to an end. As Little House on the Prairie continued to air, Melissa Gilbert made a conscious decision not to be defined by a single role. She understood that child stardom could easily trap actors in one image, making it difficult to transition into adult roles. Determined to grow, she began taking on more challenging projects that allowed her to explore deeper emotions and complex characters. In 1979, she appeared in The Miracle Worker, showing a level of emotional intensity that surprised many viewers. This was followed by The Diary of Anne Frank in 1980, a role that required sensitivity, maturity, and emotional strength far beyond her years. In Splendor in the Grass in 1981, and Choices of the Heart in 1983, where she portrayed humanitarian Jean Donovan, Melissa continued to prove that she was more than a former child star. These performances helped her slowly reshape her image, but the transition was not easy. Hollywood is often unforgiving, especially to young actors trying to redefine themselves. Some projects succeeded, while others failed to find an audience. Shows like Little House, A New Beginning, Stand By Your Man, and Sweet Justice did not achieve the success many had hoped for. Each setback brought disappointment, but Melissa refused to give up. Instead, she used these moments as learning experiences, choosing roles that pushed her out of her comfort zone. She explored voice acting, becoming the voice of Batgirl in Batman, the animated series, during the 1990s, reaching a whole new generation of fans. In 1996, she appeared in Babylon 5 as Anna Sheridan, acting alongside her then-husband, Bruce Boxleitner. This role marked another phase of growth, blending her personal and professional lives. Yet, even as her career evolved, the emotional impact of her early fame lingered. Relationships from her Little House years, especially with co-stars, remained complicated. At 61, Melissa spoke openly about her past relationship with Melissa Sue Anderson, acknowledging that their bond had been intense but strained. Growing up together under constant pressure created both closeness and resentment. There was no single dramatic event, but rather a buildup of unspoken feelings, comparisons, and emotional distance. Melissa admitted that while she once felt deeply connected, those feelings eventually turned into something heavier: frustration, misunderstanding, and emotional fatigue. This honesty did not come from anger, but from reflection. As she matured, she began to understand how the environment they were raised in shaped their emotions. Outside of acting, Melissa explored new paths. In 2006, she surprised audiences with her appearance on Nip Tuck, playing a dark and unconventional character that showed her willingness to take risks. She also returned to her roots in a different way by joining the stage adaptation of Little House on the Prairie. From 2008 to 2009, this time playing Caroline Ingalls. Performing live allowed her to reconnect with fans in a more personal way and view the story from a new perspective. This experience helped her heal parts of her past, turning memories of pressure into moments of pride. In 2009, she released her autobiography, A Prairie Tale, offering readers an honest look at her life. She spoke openly about fame, family, heartbreak, and growth. The book was not about blame, but about understanding. Melissa also stepped into reality television, competing on Dancing with the Stars in 2012. Though she was eliminated during the 8th episode, on her birthday, no less, she earned respect for her determination and grace. Through every challenge, Melissa continued to evolve, learning to balance ambition with self-care. Her career became less about proving herself and more about expressing who she truly was. The emotional struggles of her past no longer controlled her, but they remained an important part of her story, shaping the woman she was becoming. Melissa Gilbert's personal life reflected the same journey of growth, struggle, and self-discovery that defined her career. Her first marriage to actor Bo Brinkman in 1988 came during a time of transition. She was no longer a child star, but she was still searching for her identity as an adult. Brinkman provided stability during this uncertain period, but the pressures of Hollywood, demanding schedules, and personal growth placed strain on the relationship. After 6 years, the marriage ended in divorce in 1994. Though painful, this experience helped Melissa better understand herself and what she truly needed in a partner. In 1995, she married actor Bruce Boxleitner, known for his roles in Babylon 5 and Scarecrow and Mrs. King. Their relationship was built on shared experiences in the entertainment industry. Together, they navigated blended families, public attention, and busy careers. For many years, they were seen as a strong Hollywood couple. However, even strong relationships can face challenges. Over time, differences in goals, personal growth, and life pressures created distance. After 16 years of marriage, they divorced in 2011. This period marked another turning point for Melissa, prompting deep reflection about love, identity, and emotional well-being. In 2013, she found a new sense of peace when she married actor and director Timothy Busfield. This relationship was different. It was calmer, more grounded, and rooted in mutual respect. Melissa entered this marriage with confidence and clarity, shaped by years of experience and self-awareness. With Timothy, love felt safe rather than stressful. Beyond her personal life, Melissa expanded her influence into politics and production. In 2015, she announced her candidacy for the U.S. House of Representatives, driven by a desire to serve the public. Though health complications forced her to withdraw, the decision reflected her commitment to making a difference. She also launched her own production company, Half Pint Productions, allowing her to tell stories on her own terms and support other artists. As she looked back on her life, Melissa spoke openly about the emotional challenges of her early fame, including the strained relationships that once caused her deep pain. What may have felt like hatred in youth was later understood as confusion, pressure, and emotional overload. With time, reflection, and honesty, she transformed those feelings into understanding. Today, Melissa Gilbert's story is not one of bitterness, but of resilience. She grew up in the spotlight, faced emotional struggles, experienced love and loss, and emerged with wisdom and grace. Her legacy is not just Laura Ingalls, but a life lived with honesty, courage, and growth. Through reflection, she found peace, not by forgetting the past, but by learning from it. For many years, people believed that the young actors of Little House on the Prairie were living perfect, happy lives, both on screen and off. The show presented a warm picture of family, friendship, and innocence, and viewers assumed that the cast shared those same feelings in real life. Melissa Gilbert, who played Laura Ingalls, later explained that this image was only partly true. Behind the scenes, the children were not living a simple or easy life. They were growing up under constant attention, pressure, and expectations that most children never experience. Melissa Gilbert has often said that while the show gave her opportunities and success, it also took away parts of a normal childhood. She and her fellow child actors were not just playing roles, they were learning how to survive in a world that demanded maturity far too early. Over time, these experiences shaped their relationships in ways that outsiders could not easily understand. One of the relationships that fans have discussed for decades is the bond between Melissa Gilbert and Melissa Sue Anderson, who played Mary Ingalls. Many viewers believed that the two actresses were best friends in real life, just like their characters on the show. When rumors later appeared suggesting tension, dislike, or even hatred between them, fans were shocked and confused. Melissa Gilbert eventually chose to speak openly about this topic, not to create drama, but to bring clarity. She explained that her relationship with Melissa Sue Anderson was never defined by hatred or anger. Instead, it was shaped by change, growth, and the natural distance that often happens when people grow up. As children, they shared intense experiences, long work hours, emotional scenes, and constant public attention. These shared moments created a strong bond, but they also placed pressure on the friendship. As they moved from childhood into adolescence and adulthood, both women began to change. They faced personal struggles, questions about their careers, and the challenge of discovering who they were outside of the show. Melissa Gilbert explained that their lives did not move in the same direction, and that distance slowly formed between them. This distance was not caused by a fight or a single moment of conflict. It was the result of two people growing into different versions of themselves. Gilbert emphasized that this kind of change is normal, especially for people who grow up in unusual environments. Childhood fame can freeze people in the public's memory, but in real life, no one stays the same forever. Melissa Gilbert also spoke about how difficult it was to manage emotions while growing up in the spotlight. Feelings like jealousy, insecurity, and confusion were unavoidable. On a set filled with adults, schedules, and expectations, there was little space for children to process these emotions in a healthy way. Gilbert admitted that she sometimes struggled with comparisons and pressure, especially when different actors received attention or praise. These feelings did not mean she disliked her co-stars, but they did affect how relationships developed. She explained that when children are placed in competitive environments without emotional support, misunderstandings can easily happen. Despite what some fans believe, Gilbert made it clear that she never hated Melissa Sue Anderson. In fact, she spoke with respect and appreciation when discussing her. She described Anderson as disciplined, focused, and deeply professional, even at a young age. Watching Anderson work taught her important lessons about dedication and self-control. While their personalities were different, Gilbert recognized Anderson's strength and talent. Their bond was not loud or openly affectionate, but it was real in its own way. It was shaped by shared pressure rather than shared play, which made it different from normal childhood friendships. Over time, as the show ended and their lives moved forward, communication became less frequent. This distance was painful at moments, but it was also necessary. Gilbert explained that she needed space to understand who she was beyond the role of Laura Ingalls and beyond the expectations placed on her as a child star. Anderson, too, was on her own path. Gilbert said that caring for someone does not always mean staying close forever. Sometimes it means respecting distance and accepting change. This understanding came with age and reflection, Not immediately. As a child, she did not have the words or emotional tools to explain what she was feeling. As an adult, she finally does. When Melissa Gilbert looks back on her time growing up on Little House on the Prairie, she speaks with honesty rather than nostalgia. She acknowledges the joy, success, and love she experienced, but she also refuses to hide the difficulty. The show demanded long hours, emotional scenes, and public appearances that left little room for a normal childhood. While fans saw smiling faces and warm stories, the young actors were often tired, overwhelmed, and emotionally stretched. Gilbert has said that living under constant observation made it hard to understand her own feelings. Every action, friendship, and change was noticed and judged by others. In this environment, relationships became complicated. Gilbert explained that friendships formed under pressure are different from those formed in ordinary life. When children work together instead of playing together, their bonds are shaped by responsibility rather than freedom. This was true for her relationship with Melissa Sue Anderson. They shared a deep understanding of what it meant to grow up on television, but they also carried the weight of expectations placed on them by adults and audiences alike. Gilbert said that many people assumed they would remain inseparable forever, but that assumption ignored the reality of personal growth. As they entered adulthood, both women faced difficult choices. Careers in Hollywood are uncertain, especially for child actors. There is pressure to succeed, fear of being forgotten, and anxiety about identity. Gilbert spoke about how these challenges affected her emotionally. She had to learn how to define herself beyond fame and beyond the character she played for so many years. During this time, relationships naturally shifted. Some friendships grew stronger, while others faded quietly. Gilbert emphasized that this process was not a failure, but a part of life.